Well, guys, we came to interview the mayor, and we found our commissioner, DPW Commissioner, Mr. Thomas Meier. Meyers, you know my ex? Meier.
You said it, you said it right.
I said it right?
Yeah.
I'm getting it.
Myers.
Did I told you that I'm going to night school?
Are you?
Yes.
Me too.
You know. Commissioner, lots of people are complaining about the roads condition, potholes, becoming to be very expensive to fix those cars that get damaged. People are talking about parks, you know, like parks for the kids to go there and play. They're saying that the parks in the southwest of Yonkers are not the same as the park on the east side of Yonkers. Those are always better. The floor, the ground's very safe. Do we pay the same attention to the parks in the the West Yonkers, as we do on the east side of Yonkers?
Okay. Well, the first answer is parks don't come under DPW. We have a parks department. We have a different commissioner that takes care of parks.
Well, thank you.
But generally for that, the general reason is the west side is older. The west side has been around a lot longer. Our water system, our sewer system is all 100, 130, 140 years old. The east side of Yonkers is relatively newer. It was more of a residential neighborhood. There were more farms out there until the last 60, 70 years, 80 years. So it's generally, that's a major difference. As far as paying attention to the parks and to the roads, we pay the same amount of attention on the west side as we do on the east side. I grew up here, right where the new firehouse is being built. That was my apartment building. That's where Tom Meier grew up, on the west side of Yonkers. So Tom Meier pays particular attention to the west side of Yonkers because this is my home, this is where I live. The mayor has no differential. He wants to make sure every resident has the same services as every other resident. Doesn't matter whether you're on the east side, the west side, the north side, the south side. What it comes down to is, how much money do we have to invest? How much money does it take to build a new park? I know this only because I was just speaking with Tony Landy. There's a park up on High and Ridge, just above Grant Park. It's called Barton Park. When I was raising my kids, that's where I took my kids, that's where they played. It's an old park. We got an estimate to repair the entire park. It's gonna cost, I think it's around $800,000 to make all the necessary repairs for that park. So what I did with the Parks Department is I said, look, I have some guys who can do some of the work. A big part of the work is $100,000 just to redo the retaining wall on Ridge Avenue. We're gonna do that in-house. We're gonna save $100,000. Then we're gonna look at what other work we need to do. And then we're going to do the same thing. What can DPW and Parks Department do together in-house, reduce that cost, and be able to do, not just do that park, but then be able to go do other parks. And that's not normally what DPW does traditionally in Yonkers. But again, thinking outside the box, this is how we're gonna try to tackle some of these issues. By doing the work ourselves, and doing it at a cheaper rate, and getting it done hopefully a lot quicker.
Now, Commissioner, we have, I drive around Yonkers and I have seen that on Broadway and I believe Morris. There is a light there that's been down, a traffic light that's been down for a long time. People are asking, how long does it take for the light to be put back? Because it's not just the light, it's the safety of the people.
Absolutely, and the traffic lights is kind of split between traffic engineering and DPW. When the traffic light goes out because of electrical issue, DPW guys with the bucket trucks go up there and they check all the wiring and they make sure that the light's on. This pole actually fell, so they had to order a new pole. Actually, just briefing the mayor that it takes about 12 weeks for a new pole to come in. We don't keep them in stock, they're expensive. So they had to be ordered and we're waiting for them to ship in. As soon as they're shipped in, we're going to install that, get the light back working, and hopefully progress. We realize it's a safety issue. We put the temporary stop signs out there, but we do not keep a lot of stock. It's expensive, and we can't keep 10, 15 poles just waiting for poles to
just
fall
in case.
down. So we order them. Nobody expected this pole to just fall down. A bigger issue is now we had to come up with some money to inspect some of the other poles to find out why this pole collapsed Was it just an inferior product of that pole, or is it that the aluminum is being corroded by the salt that we're using? And again, it's an old system. That pole could have been there for 50 years. So we're not only fixing that problem, but we're checking all the other problems, all the other poles.
Now, Commissioner, people are asking, what is that building that looks like a FEMA building next to the DPW garage? What is that?
That is what we call a fabric building. Okay, I have about 50 plow trucks that we use during the wintertime and the salters. And we keep them outside. Now, when we keep the plow trucks outside, everybody's gonna say, why park my car outside? You gotta remember, during a snowstorm or during the winter, every time it gets ready to snow, we take the trucks, we fill them up with salt, we get ready. When the snow event's over, we have to empty them from the salt, because if we leave the truck outside and it rains, guess what you get? You get a brick, and it doesn't go through the feeder, and it doesn't work. So by building this structure, and by building it out of a fabric building, that white dome is actually fabric, we save millions and millions of dollars. That building, including the containers that are there that we're going to use as storage, that are actually become the walls and the foundation for that tent structure, the entire project cost us under $750,000. And we'll be able to park over 40 trucks there. And now we don't have to empty them between storms, because we'll be undercover. We can leave them filled with salt. The minute it starts snowing, boom, we're out the door. We're going to save hundreds of hours of manpower by parking them under that facility.
So we're saving money.
We're saving money.
Now, last question. Well, maybe there is two more questions. Commissioner, what's going on with this experiment that is, around Yonkers with the garbage containers?
Okay. Now, people call it an experiment, and to some degree it is. So, let me ask a question back. If I was to ask you to keep hitting your head against that wall until it collapsed, after a while you'd stop, right?
Yeah.
Well, for a good part, for my 7 years here and a good part before that, we have tried to prevent litter by putting litter baskets out, and it has only gotten worse. I'm not saying I have the answer. What I'm saying is, let's change something. The only thing we have the power to change is take the litter baskets out. Number one, merchants were using it to put their own commercial garbage in, and they were filling it up. So now you go by a litter basket, it's filled up, it's overflowing, you have a piece of paper in your hand, you throw it there, and it doesn't go into the hole, it lays in the box. And then wind comes, it blows it around, that piece of paper is now on the floor anyway. Go by almost any litter basket that we had, and not only was it overflowing, but all around it was filthy with litter. Most of the complaints that we're getting from some merchants who are actually putting their garbage in there. We got some complaints from people who walk their dog. And they said, well, when they pick up the dog feces with a plastic bag, I look for the litter basket, it's not there anymore. And I told this one lady, I said, wait a minute, when I walk my dog and I picked up the dog, there's no litter baskets in my entire neighborhood. Guess what I did with the bag? I brought it home and I put it in the garbage. She said, well, I have to bring it home to my apartment? Yes, it's your dog's excrement. You got to put it in a bag, you got to clean up after your dog and throw it into the garbage. There's nothing saying that we have to provide a litter basket for it. So we're just hoping that this creates the dialogue and creates the excitement that every resident starts looking at it and says, we need to clean up after ourselves. This is our city. If all the people who got so excited about us removing a litter basket got excited about helping us to keep Yonkers clean and stop throwing the litter on the floor, just think how clean this city would be. And that's what we're trying to do with this experiment. There's no date on the experiment. We didn't say, let's try it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. We just said, let's pick up the litter baskets and see if we could change the mindset of the Yonkers residents. Instead of throwing it on the floor or throwing it at the basket and it lands on the floor, let's hold on to the garbage and bring it home.
So guys, you heard it. Do not ask what your city can do for you, but what can you do for your city. Do you agree with that?
It's a partnership. We all live here. I was born here, I was raised here, I want to see a clean city. I'm not asking people to do our job. All I'm saying is that the city doesn't have enough resources to do every single thing that all our residents want. Growing up, my grandfather owned a luncheonette on Palisade Avenue. In the morning, I'd go there and I'd sweep the sidewalk before I went to school. When I came home from school, I'd sweep the sidewalk again. That was the merchant's responsibility. I didn't sweep it into the gutter. I swept it into a pile, I picked it up, I brought it inside, I put it in the garbage. We didn't put it into the litter basket. I don't even think we had a litter basket. The merchants did it. We're asking the merchants, the homeowners, the property owners, all to participate. Everybody help keep Yonkers clean. If you're walking around with a coffee cup, don't throw it on the ground. Don't throw it at the litter basket. Bring it back in. Hold on to it. There are going to be litter baskets around. There's going to be litter baskets in our park. There's going to be litter baskets in front of residential buildings. There are going to be litter baskets out there because people are going to start putting their own litter baskets out. And that's the way that it should be. Everybody needs to help keep their property clean.
So I agree with you. You know, if most of us give as much effort that we give into complaints as working with the city, helping in things that we can, we would be living in a much better city, I would think.
I believe we do live in a great city. I believe it's only going to get better. And I'll just ask everybody to just give this a little time. Let's see if it changes the attitude of all of the residents and we keep it just a little bit cleaner.
Okay. Now, Mr. Meier, just to end up this interview, give us a shout out to Yonkers Voice and Yonkers Newswire, please.
Well, I want to thank you for staying on top of it, keeping our government open to the public, keeping the dialogue open, and helping to keep us honest. Because when the press is covering what we're doing and watching what we're doing, everybody seems to react to that and be open to that and have this discussion and have this dialogue. And nobody, I have people who talk about why was this litter basket done in secrecy? What secret? It's litter baskets. Yeah. There's no conspiracy here.
Now, Mr. Meier, do you remember the episode years ago, Columbus, that every time he finished an investigation, he had one more question?
One more question.
You remember that?
One more question, yeah.
Well, I had one, but I forgot
I'm sure you do. What's the one more question?
I forgot about the question.
You forgot the question?
But that's the door for me to go home and remember the question and call you up and ask you for another interview because I remember the question.
You got it.
Thank you,
See you
sir.
Next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
You got it.
Okay.
Actually, I remember the question.
You remember now.
Mr. Myers, how do you see social platforms? You know, a lot of people think that social platforms like YouTube, our pages are not important. That the mainstream media, the physical paper, these other names that they use it, are the way to go because we are not credible. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely not. I think the older means of communication are very quickly going to the wayside, and social media is playing a significant part in communicating with the public. We've used it effectively during emergencies. Now look, I'm a little out of date. I'm 59 years old. I watch my grandson who's 10 years old. I watch my granddaughter who's 5 years old. They pick up my phone and they're doing this, and I'm like, what are you doing? And they're communicating with the entire world. So certainly, social media and all of its platforms, not only the future, it's today, it's here. I'm not talking about what's going to happen tomorrow. It's here today. It's the way to communicate. It's the way people get probably, and I don't want to throw out a percentage because I don't know, but they probably get 90% of their information through social media.
So social media is the way to go.
Social media is here. It's not the way to go. It's the only way to go. It's the only thing here.
And on that note, we end up the interview. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now watch Dan Murphy in the newspaper